Okay, so on this one I'm gonna go point by point here, start, all turns, and the finish. That way we can get a little bit more of those details that I think you you can improve on. Alright, the start, as we talked about, was much better. You're still coming up just a little bit, but I guess your angle is kind of shifting forward over here, which is better. Your 50 were quite higher. Uh, So this is a lot better. It also makes your entry in the water a little sharper like this. I think your 50 had something an angle close to this. So that's pretty good. Uh, However, we talked about watching the video back at the meet. You have somebody in your heat here that does really what I consider to be a textbook start, which is this guy on this lane over here. You can see all his momentum is shifted forward, and by the time he's releasing the block, his shin is really parallel to the water. Okay, your shin, you can see how your shin is a little up. If your shin is parallel to the water, that means that all the force that he's applying here is going this way and therefore transferring him that way, while you are going a little bit this way. Couple things happen. Number one, he's got a little bit more velocity coming off the block, where you're even though you're coming off the same, you might be coming off at the same speed because you have some vertical velocity here. His horizontal velocity, which means going out the other way, actually is a little bit faster, and his angle of entering the water is going to be even better than what you had here. So yours is much better than what you had on the 50, but you can see here how he's a lot sharper into the water. And like we talked about, that guy, he's going to win the breakout by half a body length of the whole from the whole heat, which is quite significant in a race like this. It's significant in terms of time. It's significant in terms of the psychological advantage of seeing you that far ahead right off the bat. And he's going to have clean water to swim in, whether everybody else is going to have to be swimming sort of like in this wavy water, which makes it a little harder to catch water. So swimming in clean water, actually, when you're ahead like that, turns out to be a little easier to swim fast. So really big advantage to having a start like that. So again, your start was pretty good. On the 50, you got beat on the start. Here you were even with the heat, but you have somebody beating everybody else by half a body length. And like we can see here, that is all momentum going forward off his block. Everybody else has a little bit of an angle here. The other two things on your start is you are not streamlined here. That might be because now that you're not going up so much, you are getting into the water a little faster, which means you just got to get used to getting to a streamline earlier. So essentially from here, you really got to be tightening up and getting into a tight streamline faster, so that you have a streamline as you enter in the water. You end up going into a streamline here, but that is a little bit late. Also, your feet, you can see how your feet are not together. They're far apart, which means that essentially from here down, you're not as tight as you should be. That also means you're creating more resistance as you enter the water. So that is also something to work with. So again, you really want to get your feet close together and be really completely tight on your whole body on the entry. You can see that from your lower body. It looks like you're a little loose because your feet are not really getting together. Okay. All right. The swim, I think the strokes and the breathing pattern were fine. We talked about that, so that is a big plus. This first wall here is again much better than the wall you had on the 50. I think you get over here. As soon as your left hand enters the water, you start the flip. So actually, so looking back here, you could have started this flip over here. You have a little bit of glide still, and the good thing though is you are still in a position where as you start to flip, you can still carry momentum into the wall, and I can see the biggest thing I was talking about is I want to see your hip still moving forward over the flip rather than you coming to a point, complete stop, just rotating over the same spot and then starting over. So essentially, when you start your flip, you still want to see your hip moving forward towards the wall, which means you you can start your flip a little bit earlier, provided you continue to move forward during the flip. I thought your second one was even better, at least from this angle. So you're gonna get over here, and again, this is a little bit of a glide still. Ideally, as soon as your hand is entering the water, if you're in a good position, you want to be starting the flip. But again, here you can see you're at a decent distance from the wall, and you're going to start your flip, and you're going to get to the wall. Again, because you can start your flip a little earlier, and you're still moving forward. You don't have to cover all the distance of the. You don't have to cover all the 25 yards before you start flipping, and that gives you a little bit of an advantage. And actually, so when you watch the race here, these two walls, you essentially you come into this wall pretty even with these two guys right next to you, and you beat them off this wall, which is a good sign. Again, that was a pretty good wall, not great, but pretty good, better than what we've seen. This one I thought was very good, was even better than the first one. And again, you're going to beat your competition here, your direct competition right next to you, by quite a bit on this wall, and you're going to come off ahead. And then this last wall was your worst one, definitely a misjudging here. You can see how you get real close to the wall, very, very close. So here, again, you got in a weird spot here from where your strokes are. Kind of hard to start a flip from here already, but you really needed to rush this stroke a lot more and get into a very tight flip around here. So what happens is you end up getting all the way, it looks like you're almost about to hit your head on the wall here, and you're so close to the wall that you have to, it's almost like you have to swim away from the wall to try to move your hips backwards as you flip in order to find space. That also causes your push to be a little worse. The analogy here, if try to do a very deep squat, like with your butt all the way to the ground and jump from that position, you're not going to be able to jump very high. Ideally, you want to be at about 90-degree angles with your knees and hips, or 90-degree angles at your knees and a little, and almost up straight with your hip to be able to jump. And that's essentially what you're trying to do off the wall. It's jump. So here you end up very close, so you end up in that very deep squat position, which is not very good to push off the wall. And again, when you look at what's going on around you, you go into that wall a little ahead, you come off that wall a little behind, and you still got a decent breakout. So really, it all happened at the wall. So again, this one just too close to the wall. Whenever that happens, you got to rush your last stroke and start your flip before. But ideally, we got to learn how to do the turn that we were talking about, where you maybe even from here, you can actually start your flip and really flip still moving forward. So the biggest thing is on your flip, you got to tuck your chin and get tight, but you still carry forward momentum, and you can still get to the wall without having to necessarily take the last stroke, and that can probably be better. Obviously, this was not the time to try with it, but it's something that you need to get used to. Just start your flip a little further from the wall, and make sure you continue to move forward towards the wall. Okay, so again, two pretty good walls, one not so great. And here the finish much better than the 50, but still kind of flat. So here you're extending for the wall, which is good, but ideally you gotta get your opposite shoulder to come off the water. That really means you're fully extended. It's when you're reaching with one hand and the opposite shoulder is actually coming off the water. That is when you're in the longest position possible in the water, reaching for that wall. So here you didn't quite have space for that. Again, here a little bit far to reach, end up getting a little flat. So those are the things that, like we talked about, you can do them right every now and then, but you got to practice them right until doing them wrong doesn't happen ever.